In the adjustment budget passed in February,
Councillors, councillors. Mr. Mayor, please continue. Thank you. You'll have your chance on Friday. Thank you. Please continue, Mr. Mayor.
But on a serious note, this man is lying.
in the adjustment budget passed in February, an additional 62 million rands was allocated to expand this work, and I'm looking forward to further results. Our efforts to electrify informal settlements have meant that 5,083 more households will no longer rely on dangerous illegal connections and will now have their children stand up a light bulb for the first time. These residents have now witnessed this change brought to them by this multi-party government, bringing hope and dignity to their lives. In this respect, I would like to share a story which shows the kind of dignity we have started to deliver in our city. In 2015, the residents of Slovo Park took the city to court for its failure to provide services to them after what was then 21 years of democracy. I now read from the court judgment, open quote. They have been residing in Slovo Park for a period of up to 21 years. For all of this time, they have lived in deplorable conditions. They have no access to electricity. Shake fires break out at the rate of 1 every 2 months and are often fatal, and ambulances refuse to collect the sick from Slovo Park because the roads are not formally demarcated or do not appear on the map, are not signposted, and as a result, individual residents cannot be located. Close quote. The judgment goes on to refer how this community had been promised by all three spheres of government to provide services, but these promises never materialized. These, to me, were the forgotten people of our city. I'm pleased to report that this council, that on the 19th of February this year, the residents of Slovo, for the first time, awoke to the sounds of the city installing electricity and roads in their community.
Thanks to EFF motion, Mayor. Let's not forget.
Councillor Novella, please stop using the mic without my permission. No, you can't do that. And you are repeating it, please.
To address the safety issues in our informal settlements, public lighting has been installed in Glasspruit Extension 6, Protea South, Messi Park, South Hill, Kalfontein Extension 10, Blue Hills, Meriting, Portview, and Swartkopis. Joburg Water has achieved the rollout of water provision in informal settlements that will result in 2,500 households receiving tapped water for the first time. The city now has 55,000 VIP toilets in informal settlements and 5,266 chemical toilets being serviced on average twice per week. By no means, this is a perfect situation. This is only an interim solution to a pressing human crisis. More work needs to be done in this area in order to deliver permanent solutions which fully promote the dignity of our people. Despite the success of such stories, our cold reality is that informal settlements are growing on a daily basis, reflecting the painful legacy of landlessness in our country. Along with this growth is the increasing number of people who will require intervention to bring dignity to them in the future. I recall a meeting a young woman during one of my visits to Alexander during the election campaign. This lady took our delegation to a sheikh, and we noticed that he had no ablution facilities whatsoever. I recall asking her how she survived without a toilet, and her answer will never leave me. She responded by saying that over many years, she had trained her body to only require a toilet while she was at the place of work. If there was ever a story that illustrated the need for us to do more to provide the dignity of sanitation in our informal settlement, it is this story. And it's unfortunate that some people can laugh at this tragedy. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of Arisebetseng in 2017 was a milestone for our city. In my travels around the world, one place that impressed me most was Kigali in Rwanda.
But thanks to EFF.
The streets of Kigali are spotless and people have much pride in their environment. This is because every month the entire country of Rwanda comes to a standstill to volunteer their time in the Umuganda Day to make the country cleaner and better. Following their example, we launched Arisebetseng, which in Sesotho means let us work. On a monthly basis, people across our city have come out and volunteered their time alongside government to clean its spaces around in which they live. Without fail, every month I've been deeply moved by the spirit of our people. I'm also moved by the spirit of corporate Johannesburg, who have joined this campaign, including the likes of Coca-Cola, Anglo Gold Ashanti, Adcock Ingram, Avis Fleet, and many others. We have partnered with South Africa, with our universities, with places of worship, ratepayers associations, community organizations, and the international community. Since its inception in 2017, 11,022 events have taken place across our city, collecting an incredible 245,000 tons of waste. Going forward, I'm pleased to announce the diversification of Arisebetseng into further areas of volunteerism that will take place simultaneously with our cleaning campaign. Arisebetseng schools will see communities working alongside government in adopting schools. In these monthly operations, we will work together to improve the learning environment for some of our poorest schools. We will be establishing teams of educators who are willing to give their time to help students in need. It is through Arisebetseng that we will continue to unite people in our city by a common cause of volunteerism in a spirit of community shared between all people. In my last State of the City address, following engagement with the EFF, we announced the insourcing of security personnel. At the time, the city had in the region of just over 4,000 security personnel operating under 108 contracts to various city departments. Each security guard, please listen carefully. You remember that word, listen carefully. A security guard cost the city in the region of 14,000 rands per month, payable to security companies citywide to the tune of over 600 million per annum. Listen carefully again. The sheer truth is that a security guard worked, please listen carefully, earning as little as 4,100 per month. What a tragedy. Today, I'm pleased to report to you that we have advertised the 4,000 vacancies and verified the applicants who were eligible to benefit from this arrangement on the basis that they were employed at the time of the announcement. Already, I'm pleased to announce that on the 1st of June, the first in-source security personnel will arrive in the city to begin work with a decent pay and benefits, taking home a minimum of 6,500 rands per month.
Viva EFF, viva.
Viva EFF, viva. EFF. This insourcing process could easily be argued as one of the largest and most complex undertaken by local authority in this country. Earlier this year, I was also alerted to the plight of the former so-called Josie at Work contract workers who had operated in Pikita for years. What struck me most was an grossly unfair that these contract workers were doing the very same work for 2,200 rands per month without any benefits as full-time employers of Pick It Up. Once again, and listen to this, middlemen were used to recruit these workers. This was the abuse of the worst kind of the veil of this so-called Josie at Work. To address this, 1,400 workers will go home from receiving, listen again, 2,200 a month with no benefits. Under the so-called Josie at Work program, they will be earning just over 6,000 rands per month, including full benefits.
Viva EFF, viva.
And receiving the dignity of work they deserve. Our efforts to insource catering services have also progressed.
Viva ANC, viva.
These individuals will provide catering services to the city on a full-time basis and will provide the services at a lower cost than the city has traditionally paid. In each and every one of these cases, the city has been able to run a process that does not increase its cost for these services, while meaningfully provides the dignity of a fair pay and benefits to those who have been mistreated in the past. By the next State of the City address, we will be conveying what has been achieved in the insourcing of our cleaning services, which has to be our next priority. I would like to express my appreciation to the EFF for their engagement with us on these matters.
This idea of EFF.
This speaks to how we can work together, locating common ground between us to achieve what is right and improve the lives of our people. Fellow councillors, we continue to wage war against corruption in our city. The latest statistics reflect that we have over 3,500 cases at various stages of investigation involving a staggering 18 billion rands in fraud and corruption and maladministration. The staggering loss of public money against the massive backlog of services in our city is unforgivable. To date, I'm pleased to report that over 709 people have been arrested since the establishment of our group forensics unit, of which 38 cases are currently before the courts. An internal recoveries unit is being established to ensure that the city can begin the process of pursuing perpetrators and culprits to recover these public funds. We can then ensure that these public funds are retained to improve service delivery in our communities, the places from which these public funds were stolen. We are on the brink of closing the investigation on a company called MTC, Metropolitan Trading Company. In 2010, and please listen to this and listen carefully, the city commissioned the build, operate, and transfer of broadband network throughout the city. It was a massive project that would have brought benefits to our city. After just 4 years of the 12-year BOT contract, the city decided to buy back the broadband network, despite having no expertise or capacity to manage it. The price of this decision, you may ask, and listen carefully, 2.3 billion rands. The city went to the extent of setting up a municipal-owned entity, MTC, in an attempt to justify this decision. But, as usual, what lay behind the decision was insidious corruption characterized by benefiting the Qaeda network. A series of companies benefited through this buyout deal. And a simple search of these companies revealed no less than 2 national ministers listed as directors. These 2 ministers will be named in due course because this report is expected to be finalized in the near future. A concerted and coordinated effort was made to destroy documents and evidence, but we will get to the bottom of this case, and nothing will stop the truth from coming out. From the massive to the absurd, I present to you the case of a company called Secure Engineering. The company appointed to build the substations in El Dorado Park and Hopefield to deal with constant electricity outages in the area. This company submitted a forged bank guarantee to secure the tender and proceeded to receive over 100 million rands for the work estimated to the value of no less than 1.5 million rands. While the people of these communities continue to suffer from an unreliable supply of free electricity. I'm pleased to report to Council that the 2 directors of this company have been arrested, are out on bail, and will return to the courts on the 5th of June this year to answer for their crimes against our people. Our efforts to hunt down corruption in our city have been labeled witch hunt, and I'm accused of being uncaring in my approach. Hear it from me, and hear it from me now, and hear it from me again. We will not be deterred. We will not slow down. In fact, we will accelerate. Our fight against corruption will never rest in this city. I would like to applaud the majority of this council for supporting, in support of supporting the fight against corruption in the city. To those in council who do not yet support this fight, who labeled this a witch hunt, the invitation to join this fight remains open. The true fight against corruption is no compromise, no fence-sitting, and no middle ground. It requires a clear commitment to ensuring that public money is understood to be exactly that. It is public money and entrusted to our care. My commitment to achieve a professional public service remains a cornerstone in our effort to turn around the city of Johannesburg. Nothing we do will be more important than this, because the accumulative effort of having 33,000 employees committed to a common cause, which is our people, will exceed all other interventions we can possibly achieve. In this respect, the skill audit has been concluded for levels 1 and 2 in the city, with recommendations arising that we must implement to upskill our senior managers. The audit is commencing for level 3 and 4 with a view to being completed by the financial year end. Our Service with Pride campaign continues to identify officials in our city who go beyond the call of duty for our residents. Every week, we champion those who serve our city and serve them with pride. I'll give you an example of Inspector Rikotso of JMPD, who is here with us in the gallery today. Inspector Rikotso If I may ask you to please stand, if she is around. Thank you. One of our residents was on a way to OR.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Councillor Mfikwe, you called me. I don't know why. Okay. Thank you. Please continue, Mr. Mayor.
Mara Speaker. Awa.
One of our residents was on a way to OR Tambo in a taxi where the driver was being aggressive and refusing her to get out and find another taxi. An off-duty officer, the Kotso, observed something was wrong and helped the resident out of the taxi. The resident was shaken and worried sick that she would not make it to the airport in time. So the off-duty officer, the Kotso, drove her to the airport herself. This is the kind of service which goes beyond the call of duty. And I ask to join me, and I'm asking you to join me in celebrating the proud service offered by Inspector Rikoso here today. Ma'am, thank you very much. As we proceed with our plans for the 2018-2019, they will be coupled with an extensive series of engagement with employees of our city. The plans for delivering the kind of change demanded of our government must be shared by every person working in our city, whether they wear a suit or an overall to work. In the process of informing the strategy for the 2018-19 financial year, I've come to the conclusion that this city has these priorities wrong for a very long time. Somewhere along the way, the city leadership became obsessed with self-pleasing ideas of the world-class African city. This was to impress international bodies, but the problem was that our predecessors bought into their own spin. So the operation of the city was engineered to include programs and projects that really belong to a city, which already has the basics right. The focus became about active lifestyle programs more than what about providing dignity and sanitation to our people. Spending on sports and recreation received 10 times more than the efforts to combat the deadly trade of drugs that held so many young people down. More was done for swimming pools than was done for the potholes or street lights. Essentially, the approach of the city seemed to be about meeting the expectations of the countless international bodies on which it served, rather than delivering what people actually needed. Soon, the budget was being spread too thinly across many areas of interventions. Government became too preoccupied deciding what people and communities and business needed, instead of actually listening to them directly. Our people want city to focus on the basics of local government, the bread and butter issues that impact their lives on a daily basis. They want a city that builds houses, opportunities to address the painful legacy of dispossession of land and title deeds in our country. For those who have services, they want reliable provision of electricity, water, sewer, and refuse removal. They want to drive on roads that do not damage their vehicles and through interactions where the traffic lights work. They want to live in a city where more is done to keep their families safe and where criminals find the city a dangerous place to work. They want a growing economy that creates jobs for our people. They want a city that provides for the needs of its residents with quality primary health care that takes care of the weak and the weary. They want to be treated with respect and dignity. In considering the plans of the multi-party government, I'm reminded that the residents in our city voted for change in 2016. What must drive the work of our government is defining that change alongside budgeting, planning, and sufficiently to achieve it. It must start with the realization that change of that majority of our people had in mind was not small change. It was not about fiddling here and tweaking there. The change that was demanded by the multi-party government was real change. It was fundamental change. There's a word in Sesotho which captures this notion beautifully, called diphetogo. Diphetogo can only directly be interpreted to mean real change, transformational change. It captures the idea that change is not an event, but a process. That is why diphetogo speaks to a defining end state, ensuring that long-term planning and investment follows to achieve it. It was at this point that our planning for the 2018-19 financial year end became known as the diphetogo program. The first job was about listening to our residents to define the areas where this change must be prioritized over the long to medium term to achieve this diphetogo. Our residents and businesses who currently have access to water, electricity, and refuse removal must enjoy reliable provision of the services. Service outages must be reduced notably to the point that the current state of affairs becomes a distant memory of a painful past. Our residents who do not yet enjoy the dignity of the services will see the city doing more than it has ever done before. The services are a basic requirement of local government and will no longer be rolled out as though government is doing these residents a favor. Our road users on our 13,500 kilometers of road network must experience better roads, fewer potholes, and clear road markings. Roads must be dug up and relaid where they've been allowed to decline to the point where pothole repair is futile. Our 1,000 kilometers of gravel road, of which exist in our informal settlements, must start to disappear. It is relatively a small matter, but an important one to say that our policy will not be change street names in the city unless they are historically offensive. But our approach will be to ensure that our residents living in informal settlements have the dignity that comes from a touch street with a name and an address. Our residents must see more houses being done in the housing space than has ever been done before. We have to invest in all housing typologies to address the historical legacy of our painful past and provide the dignity that comes with our own ownership and title. Our approach is to reverse this backlog and not just making small incremental inroads into it. We must diversify housing beyond the RDP tradition and look to site and service, formalizing informal settlements with services, and the potential the inner city holds for massive low-cost, affordable housing. Our residents must experience street lights being installed and maintained across the city in a way which makes our streets less desirable for criminals. We must make Johannesburg shine bright at night and assist the work done by GMPD must keep our communities safe. Visible policing must increase in our city, with more on-duty officers in more vehicles being seen and felt. By law enforcement must be aided by the newly established municipal courts to ensure that our offenders are made to answer to the law. Intelligent policing initiatives must see massive rollout of CCTV camera networks being monitored in our operation centers. And the use of gunshot fire technology must augment our police force in responding to crime scenes faster. Our residents must find more of our clinics and libraries operating with extended working hours. Those in need of primary health care must receive it easier, later, and over weekends. Those in need of safe, conducive environment to study must find our libraries open to their needs. In response to a motion by the EFF in Council, our efforts in primary health care will receive a boost by initiating a procurement of mobile health care clinics. These vehicles will take primary health care to those areas and most in need, while the rollout of clinics continues throughout our city. The continued rollout of drug treatment and rehabilitation centers in our clinics must also expand. There can be no doubt that not enough has been done by provincial national government to combat drugs in our city, and requires us to step up and do more. The historical debate of this being a national or provincial competency cannot continue while our young people are dying from this scourge. Many of the Dipeto who I've spoken of are major drivers of economic confidence, growth, and job creation. But we have a direct role to play as a city. In this respect, our newly revamped opportunity centers must expand into more areas, supporting more small businesses with a greater basket of services. We will not, as before, seek to create winners and losers in the space, but we will support the small businesses that have weathered the failure of government to support them over the last 2 decades. We will expand artisan training programs in which thousands of young people can then learn the trade of bricklaying, plumbing, tiling, and electrical services. We will roll out Wi-Fi throughout the city, focusing on areas which will drive economic growth. Studies worldwide have indicated that for every 10% rollout of access to Wi-Fi, a city can achieve a corresponding 1% growth in its economy. This is one of the Dipeto that will receive investment that exceeds anything before. Arising from the valued input of Councillor J. Maharaj of Cope, the city will now begin pilot project for the provision of free bus rides for pensioners and persons with disabilities during off-peak times. This pilot project will allow the city to make the necessary preparation for a full rollout of this initiative in the future. Our residents must experience improvements in our customer care. Waiting times and queues must be shortened, and our residents must receive the red carpet treatment, which was the exclusive preserve of political leadership in the past. While we are working to address our long-term backlog in our city, our residents must be treated as partners, not as adversaries in our customer care. Our efforts in these Dipeto priorities speak to the need to invest in our infrastructure, our communities, and our economy. It requires of us to do more. We must be better. We must deliver faster than the city has ever done before. In this respect, I've used my delegated powers to initiate an establishment of a service delivery unit in the office of the city manager. This unit's purpose will be to plan, monitor, and manage the rollout of these priorities in our city. It will operate as a monitoring and evaluation tool to make sure that these projects are rolled out efficiently and effectively. Having identified Dipeto areas of priority, we had to deal with the question of the quantum of change envisaged in these projects. The mandate for change we received in 2016 was not for small incremental changes. It was for real changes, fundamental changes. Dipeto. Given the state of the city we have inherited and the financial constraints arising from this, it requires that we begin to take the bold decisions needed to achieve change. Change cannot be achieved if we do what has been done before. We must invest heavily to ensure that change is realized in this term of office. In our situation, this kind of change will only be realized by focusing our attention on priorities. When the basics of local governments have been neglected, trade-offs need to be made. These basics of local government will never be achieved unless the trade-offs are made. Should the only working electrical outlet in a community really be the pump of a new swimming pool? I do not believe anyone would advocate this. Can we really justify building multipurpose centers and community halls to service communities that do not have the dignity of a toilet? No community I've engaged with would choose a community hall instead of seeing their children studying in their homes under bulb light. How can we justify priorities, pressing beautification programs, when our infrastructure is crumbling in ways that threaten the economy of our city? The over 1 billion rands that was historically spent on street art, swimming pools and recreation centers need to be redirected to get the basics in our city.
Mara, you're clipping.
Through this kind of reprioritization, we can ensure that our limited financial resources are channeled in a manner where the priorities of our people will receive more long-term investment than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, the milestone we have reached in this administration, the programs of change which the city continues to embark on, do not belong to one party alone. It is a program of change and delivery forged from the contributions brought to the table by each of the coalition partners who make up this government. What we have achieved so far is testament to the change that we can deliver when we work together for the benefit of all our residents, transcending party politics and the limits of each of our individual party manifestos. When the people of Johannesburg voted this administration into power, they spoke with a clear and unambiguous voice. They want to see bold steps taken to move Johannesburg forward into an era of change. Please allow me, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our coalition partners for their continued service to the people of Johannesburg. My deepest appreciations goes to Councillor Mzumbanzi Ntuli, MMC for Housing. MMC for Transport, Helen Makuba. Both of these colleagues are from the IFP. Thank you very much for serving the residents. Equally, my appreciation goes to Councillor Meshach van Wyk of the ACDP, Chairperson of Community Development. Thank you, sir. Councillor Thandi Nontenja of the UDM, Chairperson of MPEC, Councillor Franco Dilange of the Freedom Fund Plus, Chairperson of Economic Development, Councillor J. Maharaj of COPE, Chairperson of OCOL. I thank each of you for yours and your party's unwavering support in setting this multi-party government's agenda. Although not a coalition partner, I wish to express my thanks to the EFF, led in Johannesburg by Councillor Musa Novella.
While he catches the feelings, so.
Ngibonge ne-brass band.
Please allow me to actually thank Councillor Novella for the honest and robust engagement with our administration. Together, we all understand the residents of our city required each one of us to put aside things that makes us different from one another in the interest of what we all have in common. I'm grateful to each of you for your willingness to come to the party. Allow me to take this opportunity to recognize the presence here today of the provincial leadership of our coalition partners. From the IFP, the Honorable Bonginkosi Dlamini. From COPE, the Honorable Lefo Honong. From the ACDP, the Honorable Lydia Meshwe. In his absence, the Honorable Jacob Mulder from the Freedom Front Plus. And also in his absence, Mluleki Franz from the UDM. Again, though not a member of the coalition, I recognize and appreciate the presence of Honorable Mandisa Mashego from the EFF. I would also like to appreciate the presence here today of Honorable Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, leader of the IFP. You honor us with your presence. I would also like to recognize the national chairperson of the EFF, Advocate Dalim Pofu, who is here with us today. Advocate, thank you very much. You grace us with your presence. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank the Honorable Musia Lekota for joining us here today.
Sell out.
It is a great
It's a sellout.
It is a great privilege for which
It's a
you have
sellout,
with
that
us.
one.
And I thank you, sir. I thank all of you for your commitment and your support for change in our city. Let me also take this opportunity to recognize and appreciate the presence of leaders of my own party, DA Gauteng leadership, Mr. John Moody.
Where's Tilile? Tilile.
Abamutsebi lebo.
Johannesburg Regional Chairperson, Dr. Hendrik Volman. Deputy Chair of Federal Council, Thomas Walters. And DA National Spokesperson, Refilo Nzeke.
Yes.
I thank you all for your unwavering support. Ladies and gentlemen, today, we recommit ourselves to delivering change to the people of Johannesburg. The change of which I speak of is fundamental change. Total change that will impact the lives of our people in the most meaningful ways. We have started a journey on the 23rd of August 2016, and now, just 21 months later, our city is moving in the right direction. It has to be the focus of our government to ensure that the pace of change increases and that it reaches into the lives of more people, more businesses, and more
You forgot the ANC.
Despite the mammoth task ahead of us, we continue to grow.
Councillor Danja, will you stop including Councillor Ntomela? Stop
We
pressing the
continue to
button.
draw strength and inspiration from the enduring spirit of our people of our city. They have endured many years of hardships and neglect, while their most important needs took a back seat in the work of government. It is the spirit of our people that will continue to inspire our government. It is the strength of our people that must drive us to higher levels of achievement. It is the suffering of our people that must guide us to be more caring and more responsive. It is the patience of our people in the work of turning the city around, which must forge partnerships between government and communities in achieving change. It is our people that must remain in the center of every effort of our government, because if this is true, surely the change cannot fail in the city of Johannesburg, and I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You ANC. Thank you, ANC.
Ja, die kleinen.
Thank you, councillors. Will you please take your seats? Councillors,
Re bja kgona ho benya.
thank you. Please take your seats. Councillor Shabalala. Thank you, councillors. Before we close, some announcements, and councillors, thank you. There are some announcements. For the arrangements will be announced from the table, and that will be done by Linus. Sherlin. Sherlin, will you please make those announcements? Thank you. On the seating, I mean the exit arrangements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Councillor Vasco da Gama,